the stations of KUAM, wishing you and yours a very happy holiday.
Day, welcome to Weekend Edition. I'm Kenny Quintanilla. Glad you could join us. Governor Eddie Calvo is back on Guam after a 2-week trip, meeting with fellow governors, federal officials, and Vice President-elect Mike Pence, with hopes of addressing issues affecting Guam and the territories. Here's more. November was a busy month for Governor Eddie Calvo, who spent a lot of his time traveling to different states in hopes of bringing issues affecting Guam to the forefront. His first stop was in Florida to the Republican Governors Conference, where he met with Vice President-elect Mike Pence.
The 2 points that I made for him were, number one, please include the territories when it comes to a lot of the initiatives with the states. And of course, number two, some of the concerns that we have in regards to our region and with the Trump-Pence administration, ensuring that when there are discussions about the Western Pacific, that the folks in Guam and the Marianas are consulted.
Calvo was the co-chair together with CNMI Governor Ralph Torres on President-elect Donald Trump's Asian Pacific American Advisory Committee. Other issues discussed during this conference include the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid block grants. From Florida, he made his way to Washington, D.C., where he met with Alaska Senators Dan Sullivan and Lisa Murkowski and Isaac Edwards, the chief counsel for the Republican majority.
Some of the key issues we brought there forward, again with Senator Sullivan, it was the H-2 crisis that we see here that will have an impact on the military, but also have a major impact on Guam and our economy.
The H-2 issue was also discussed with Deputy Secretary of Defense Robert Work. Governor Calvo says he also wanted to stress how dynamic the region, specifically how Guam would be in terms of a ship repair facility.
We see the fluidity of the political situation in the Far East and why it is so important to have a ship repair facility and a dry dock located in American soil, which is Guam. We made it clear to them that the timetables for the complete renovation, completion of work on the dry dock machinist, we're looking at March of next year.
And from the nation's capital to the west coast of San Francisco, Calvo met with Region 9 officials and invited them to come to Guam and attend a leadership forum that will be replacing the Micronesia Chiefs Executive Summit in March.
With this leadership summit, this leadership forum in Guam, and some of the issues that we're dealing with, again, whether it's communicable diseases, whether it's compact impact, whether it's jobs and the economy, health and human services, as well as Department of Labor, are keenly part of the equation. So I made that open invitation.
Calvo says along with his Washington, D.C. office director, he hopes to continue working with the Trump-Pence transition team in addressing Guam issues. It's been months since the Festival of Pacific Arts, yet the Office of Public Accountability has yet to begin its post-audit. Auditor in charge Rodalyn Gerardo says while they haven't made much progress in actually starting the audit, they did hold an entrance meeting with the FESPAC committee last month. She says the OPA is still waiting for some more information, including the FESPAC closeout report. She says the OPA is concerned that the post-audit has not made much progress, but hopes to begin before the end of the year. She adds the OPA is also working with limited resources and the availability of staff who are also conducting other audits at the same time. It's been 75 years since the Japanese occupation on Guam, and next week a special mass will be held in honor of Guam's World War II survivors. The Guam War Survivors Memorial Foundation, together with the Archdiocese of Agana, is holding the mass at the Hagåtña Cathedral on December 8th. It was that same day back in 1941 when the island was attacked by the Japanese. The same morning, many were praying at Mass honoring Santa Maria in Cabalan. This year marks the 7th consecutive year both the Foundation and the Archdiocese of Agana partnered to host the Memorial Mass. The Mass starts next Thursday at 9:30 a.m. It's been months since a nonprofit group was created aimed at taking the feds to court on behalf of survivors of the Japanese occupation on Guam during World War II. According to Senator Frank Bloss Jr., while nothing has been filed yet, the Guam World World War II Reparations Advocates Inc. group still plans to pursue the lawsuit. Bloss says the group's efforts are on a parallel track with legislation currently in Congress. Bloss is referring to the National Defense Authorization Act, which he says includes a provision to help settle war reparations. He says, quote, "We're hopeful that Congress sees it in its wisdom to move forward, and if they don't pass it there, this gives us more ammo to continue to pursue the lawsuit." Bloss says the group is still working with its Washington, D.C. attorneys along with the Congresswoman's office. While some fundraising has already occurred, he says the group still has a goal of raising $50,000 to $100,000. Guam Army National Guard Master Sergeant Agnes Quintanilla Diaz is making history again. She is the first female Guam Guard soldier to be promoted to the rank of Command Sergeant Major. She first made history as the first female to successfully complete the in-residence U.S. Army Sergeants Major Academy last year. She began her military career with the Guam Army National Guard in February 1984. Her promotion ascends her to the CSM of the 203rd Regional Training Institute at Fort Juan Munya in Harmon. A heads up for Southern residents that the military will be holding a tsunami exercise on Naval Base Guam. The exercise is scheduled for next Tuesday, the 6th. Don't be alarmed if at times you hear the base's giant voice mass notification system. The tsunami exercise is for 4 hours long, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. It will provide Naval Base Guam headquarters, emergency management operations, and its tenant commands a chance to exercise command and control capabilities in response to a natural disaster. As well, there will be temporary closures of beaches to help simulate what security and support teams would be doing in event of a pending tsunami to hit Guam. It's a sight that brings joy to thousands in the community every holiday season. Anissa Baza tells us the story behind the island's beloved Christmas village, now on display at the Agania Shopping Center. Here's more.
It was back in 1992 when the first Christmas village display came to life by members of the Kanata family.
He wanted to surprise his parents, my twin sister Donna and Senator JQ, to show his parents that he could have a cool train city for Christmas. And that just grew. Auntie May's vision was, instead of all the kids having their separate Christmas
The display eventually outgrew our home, outgrew the Capuchin Friary, and now resides at its new home in the Agania Shopping Center. Senator Tina Bond said putting the village together takes months of hard work and what she calls a labor of love. I know it's an invitation on behalf of the Kanata family, the Vegetables family, the Mama family, all the volunteers who helped make this display happen. I want to extend an invitation to the people of Guam to please come out. I want to open up the van from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. There are no refreshments happening to town. So please, take the time to come out, learn the children, learn the family, learn the friends, and enjoy Christmas with us. The event is free. Donations will be accepted to benefit the Capuchin Friary. Reporting from Guam's I'm Lisa Bonza. 17 months ago, Washington focuses down with circular over the Montana, find out that other communities are attracted to come Guam clubs out of Japan. Now, no voice of strong, strong news. They know how to source of the law. Now, but we can't let them know that. We can have to enjoy the budget. But for 7 weeks, sports, license. I'm going to say. With increasing the amount of nervous about having dental treatment in Alabama. An estimated 35 million adults experience anxiety or nervousness at the simple thought of visiting a dentist. As your dentist, I strive to make your visit as painless or painful as possible, and I frequently tell my patients that in the 21st century, if we can give medicines to put your tooth to sleep, or medicines to take an infection or toothache away, we can try to do something to help relax you and take all food away. No one ought to sit in a dental chair thinking of childhood memories or fearing injections. If you're not valid, if you want your tooth fixed, don't wait until the pain is killing you. Come in, tell us your fears, and set up an appointment. We have announced many that dental treatment will not scare you anymore. For your helpful dental dinner, I'm Dr. Kenny Bourgeois, Paradise Smiles. And you will know all the good that simple smiles will do. Our team trios at Unit Tuesday will take out popular items and group them into 6 terrific trios, like the Raja Spices Trio, with backfire steak, grilling chicken, and a half wrap of sriracha onion ribs. Your classic items all on one plate, now on a Tuesday. Like, find us on your social media platform. Follow us at KUAM social media. Hi, welcome to Jason Solomon. Right now, I'm at the and we are talking about the continuing efforts of the Circle of Care Party of the Tribal Cancer Foundation. I believe there's a retreat coming up. I'm not understand. Tell me all about that. Okay, the Circle of Care program is launching health and healing from holidays. A little bit more of what we offer that was included in July, but we feel that it's critical that during this holiday season, we offer some tools, some resources for those that are in active treatment or who have been cancer survivors, and of course their families and friends. So what are some of those activities? We'll have yoga, we'll have some meditation, we've got nutrition courses, we've got some scrapbooking, art, and just a few other wonderful people who are coming to share more of their expertise. We've got Miss Sandra with photography, Michelle Peter with art therapy, Eileen Bond with drawing, floating, and Scott McCoy with photography. So in addition to what we've presented in July, a little bit more of that, and then our keynote speaker will be Dr. Lily Perez, who will be sharing about how to cope through the holidays. Right, very nice. So it being a retreat, on some levels it's like off-site somewhere, there'll be some sort of trip involved. Exactly. It's at the Westin Hotel, and it's Friday, December 9th. It's from 8 to 12. We do have limited registration slots, so if they could call in to the OMC Cancer Foundation and register with them, we'll take the registration, and it promises to be a worthwhile experience for all. Exactly. Because people that attend the OMC Cancer Symposium back in July, I probably got the news about this, and they learned so much. They had a really fun time. They had information and activities that they could actually take back and penify. So if anybody was there, this is not the exception of it. If anybody was it, then they kind of happen at this point. Yes, exactly. And again, it's just to enhance and support the conventional medicine that we already are part of. But we want to enhance and support them through those other activities, and there'll be some programs involved as well. So we encourage them to sign up soon and join us. All right, so it will be registration required, but how can people go about that? Okay, they can actually either email emc.circle@yahoo.com, or call 472-6854, and that's the UNC Cancer Foundation. If I'd like to come in person, the foundation office is located on the second floor along Cup and Saucer Cafe.
And what is the registration fee?
It was perfectly free to...
Absolutely free.
Yes,
I just want to make sure that we get, we know who's coming, so we don't have them overage and make sure that everybody has comfortable space.
Exactly, and again, as long as we're cancer survivors currently actively on treatment or survivors, we're also welcome their caregivers and family members who are also impacted by the cancer diagnosis.
And that is a very big part of it, because at the symposium, again, probably 6 months prior, a lot of the people who took part in this said, I can actually survive my family member who's undergoing cancer treatment right now, who has survived cancer. It's actually therapeutic because we're going through this, there's emotional attachment, obviously, there's a recovery period, but then those activities are not really better.
And some of them actually aren't able to attend without a caregiver present. So I'm the ones that also impact the caregivers and the coping mechanisms for a while. So we actually offer it to both.
Okay, so anything else about that?
Just that please, call or email as soon as possible so that my boss just telling me that we will look into it. But again, we're excited about it and hope that we can take advantage of this.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays to you. All right. I'll share the last.
We're celebrating holiday holidays in Cosmos Lightning and a head start of 7 St. Paul's features Christmas with the award-winning 2017 holiday lineup like the Hyundai Accent starting at $13,995 or the Hyundai Elantra starting at $17,995. How about the new way redesigned Hyundai Tucson starting at just $22,995? Best of all, every new and perfectly aged vehicle comes with an annual shopping center gift certificate and $3,000 in bonus cash. Visit Cars Plus today for big savings and easy financing on your Hyundai holiday sales event. Cars Plus, driven by you.
It's a massive really good holiday section. Some of it, but the body is not on that. That's good. And also, what's it? Doesn't you know it? What is it? That's what I'm saying. It sounds good. How does it get? A lot of things. We did that. We have to go. That's also that's tourism is Guam's #1 industry. It attracts jobs and visits. When a visitor comes to Guam, they spend their money on hotels, on transportation, on shopping, on dining out. They're happy to take to Guam. Well, hotel they stayed in and the Guaman Hotel. Guama's covers the the stores they shop at are the best. The restaurant and the waitress is a quiet, happy place. The farmers and the cookies. Real estate to retail, tourism has a positive impact on every industry. Tourists pay taxes, the economists pay less. Let's make sure our local economy grows as well, strong and well. Make Guam a better place to live, work, and visit. Support tourism. Big flight from Flight 17 Grand Park on Big Bill Night. 5% to the flight. Double flight pass and go Corporations in one conduit. All on Big Operations on the 10%. Private America, 2,000 over and international flights. You want to visit Big Corporations rather than register at lifelongmarathon.com. Everything all around, we want to just sit back home because of that safety calls, also calls. I was here, I'm not talking about all safety tips, also the call. I from the other side because it's I was specific, so that way, so we would have Christmas, of course, if you know, we see a lot of that, but it's occurring, especially in the South area. So the things that we're talking about, that you notice that the challenge was actually how we can protect our home. Of course, there's always the box security buildings and concessions. But the homes that all the buildings and the homes and homes that have some hills and some footage. And so, that's the homes that we're starting to all around that. And one of us is part of it as part of our resources, our officers on the field. And those are our solution. And I'm saying that they know some of the businesses. I'm still kind of also touch on some of that. That data collected from those close to television sets, the on your smartphone, anywhere in the world. Evidence of what can be seen in functions. There's no sound. You actually have a lot of Texas have actually stressed that they go out and buy bodies and they run on them. That exercises, instances of footage that you have, instances of assets that you run on, and assets you run on. And so that's what I saw. You run on something, watch programs, that we want to stir up. Some of the database of homes that have some footage, maybe that instance officers. So that's one of the things to it's become a home, and I don't say that it's flashing offensive through doors and windows, but also that sounds like something like footage. And what I was out there, one of the high-tech, high-end footage, shotguns, expensive footage, expensive equipment, and actually the other officers now, because how is some of the more high-level things that are popular around their head, and to deter crime, that makes sense. A lot of devices that can be if you want to try and like bunch of crime, you're going to really get caught. I mean, they're all the time very, very prominent. For one, the films and the lights. I'll say that, approximately 50%, 50% of my car, 50% of my equipment. A lot of such as some footage of that actually capture that point. Not put on that evidence in the film. 100% chance they won't get caught. So 20% chance something better will be better. It better certain some more of that self-assurance that I'm not safe. So what we have is unfortunately, this is a lot of it happening on the homes. All right, and let's try to pull one thing that outside this crime in the center of the
Discounts at local restaurants like Golden Star, typically, it's neutral, but on a budget or discounts for those landmark farms, with about 65% off on all natural and organic items at US Supermarket Food. It's all part of Guam's largest reward club, Calvo's Lifestyle Club. Join today for free as an added benefit to being covered in insurance Krystal. To show your Lifestyle Club product with a quick of our rewards partners, start saving more. This is innovative Calvo's Christmas food for your better lifestyle.
Celebrating Hyundai holidays and cars plus the 19. Get a head start of 7 and save thousands this Christmas with the award-winning 2017 Hyundai lineup, like the Hyundai Accent starting at $13,995, or the Hyundai Elantra starting at $17,995. How about the beautifully redesigned Hyundai Tucson starting at just $22,995? Best of all, every 11th unique vehicle comes with a Canyon Shopping Center gift certificate and up to $3,000 in bonus cash. Cars Plus today offers big savings and easy financing on your Hyundai holiday sales event. Cars Plus, driven by you.
Shop Guam even back and better than ever. GPD has teamed up with over 100 Shop Guam vendors to give you access to hundreds of deals and discounts. Download the free Shop Guam mobile app and get real-time alerts on offers nearest you. Dine, shop, play, and save just in time for the holiday season. Download the app now and start taking advantage of great deals. The Shop Guam Festival is a GPD signature event, making Guam a better place to live, work, and visit.
Guam's other car specialists, all electricians, has multiple models, all operated from a straight up professional detail, car transports, and tires, Calvo, complete detail, body, tire detail, expand detail, tow bag operations, and washing, cement carpet, shampoo, and roller racing, undercarriage cleaning, fuel filler, battle protection, fuel box washing and laundry, and so much more. Visit us at our new location at 646-5555 with appointment. Everyone reflections belongs all of those specialists for the 2 hours, wash tires. And we're headed to the trail. Life is a sport. The board is state. Anything you could call us tonight at Mount Brown, shout out to the Clemson Big Fed. Back half of the culture with Ellen Ayako Alfred. One week more part of Clemson Crew with the club by registering online on KUAM.com. Make sure to come up with their quality and their free. That's all the time we have. Let's keep it bouncing forward. Thanks for watching and have a good weekend. caption is brought to you by Tsunami Life Emotion. Stations of general Russian new areas are relevant happening.